Hi, I'm Adam Edwards, CEO of Telarus, and today we're going to talk about leadership the Telarus way. We take leadership very seriously at Telarus. In fact, when new leaders join us, no matter how tenured they are in their careers or in the industry, we put them through the Telarus leadership course. That is the same course that aspirational leaders in the organization take to understand that leadership, while important and there are great leaders everywhere, there is a way within Telarus that we want it done. Leadership at its core is simply organizing people to do a task. And while Peter Drucker put a lot of words to it, I think it can be simplified much more easily. The challenge we have, though, as leaders today is it's not good enough to just get people to do a job, to swing a hammer, to take place in some mundane task. As a leader today, we have to inspire our people with a vision and get them to want to do something. Because it's when their passion comes out, it's when their love of the job or love of the destiny causes them to do things, we get a much better result. And in the business in which we find ourselves, in a relationship business, those people better be happy and they better want to do their job. So how do we go about doing that? Well, it's tough to find these attributes. We talked about attributes in our hiring session. And as you look at a leader, I think a lot of people look at leaders as military leaders, as someone barking orders from the top, as someone who's got all the answers, going to tell everyone what to do. I just don't buy it. And especially within Telarus, we don't buy it. But the problem is when you go and look at all these management books, they're so contradictory. In fact, we went through and listed some of these, and if you look at some of them, they've got some really good suggestions: awareness, decisiveness, empathy, accountability. But the problem is when you go to another source, here's Forbes, so equally Inc. magazine and Forbes, equally reputable publications. Now we've got honesty, ability to disagree, to delegate, communication, sense of humor. So now we have a different set of attributes we're looking for as a leader. The problem is the list goes on. Every book you look at, this is my favorite, the 21 laws, and they're irrefutable, by the way, that we have to do all those 21 things to be a great leader. Well, the list goes on and on. And what we decided as an organization is we needed to identify what was best for our culture. How do we inspire and lead our people in the best way, and what attributes do we look for in our leaders? Well, we boiled it down to just a few. And what we first look for is emotional IQ. Emotional IQ is the ability of the person to put themselves in someone else's shoes and understand what they may be thinking or feeling. So rather than just reciting off orders of do this, do this, do this, do this, you actually understand the person who you're working with. You understand the person that reports to you, and you meet them at their level. That they may be having trouble in some certain regard. They may be having trouble at home. Something else is going on. If a leader cannot sense those things, they're not going to fit in here very well. Because what we found out is if that we care for our employees, they come back and care not just for the organization, but for our partners. It's reciprocal. We've got to have alignment all through the organization. Our leaders must have emotional IQ. And I believe, from a broader respect, that leaders in general should have an emotional IQ. They should understand those around them, who they're leading, and what those people are looking for. Because again, it's not just swinging a hammer. We're not just doing rote labor, digging a hole, pushing a wheelbarrow. We are asking people to bring their best selves to work. And that takes someone who cares about them. Oftentimes when I think about great leaders, I think of a coach. If you think about your favorite coach, you knew they were in it for you. They might have been hard on you sometimes because they knew you were capable of being better, but they always understood where you were coming from. Next attribute, character. And character, I think, can be talked about in a lot of different respects. But when we talk about character, we're talking about empathy, courage, fortitude, honesty, loyalty. All of those things wrap into one. We think someone with character. Someone's going to do the right thing for the right reason. Those are the types of people we want in leadership positions. Now, if we go one step further, someone who is a great leader comes out of a book called Good to Great. And if you ever get a chance to read Jim Collins' Good to Great, it's a wonderful book full of good data about how some companies are just really successful over time and how they got that way. And one thing they find is they're trying to get away from the idea of leadership. Can't we just get away from a person being the cause of that? Because we want to see systemically how it becomes that. Even though they wanted to get away from it, what they found was these companies that were successful over decades was the characteristics of their leaders. And the reason we need both of these, because as I mentioned before, we're looking for discretionary effort. We want people to want to do good things. The definition of discretionary effort is when it's 4:45 and someone's looking at the clock and thinking, I can either start the next task or I can just, play around and be done at 5. You want someone who says, you know what, I can get it in 15 minutes. I can get a lot of stuff done in. I can get these things taken care of. When someone internally chooses to do something, not because they're forced to, that's discretionary effort, and that's magic. And if you can get that as a leader, you're doing great things. If you can get that as an organization, you're doing wonderful things. Now, last 2 items that we found about leadership came from the book called Good to Great. This was written by Jim Collins, and I highly encourage you to read this book. It talks about companies that perform well over time. In fact, they took a 15-year timeline. One of the reasons they took 15 years to measure all these companies, they wanted to control for leadership, because they figured within that time they'd have multiple CEOs. So surely it wouldn't be the CEO that causes this great success at the company. They wanted something that transcends a single person. But what they found was there were certain CEOs that caused companies to be great for 15 or 20 years. And what they found from these people, they called them a level 5 leader. A level 4 leader, level 3 leader, they can all do a good job, but a level 5 leader, someone who creates an organization is so incredible that it outperforms the stock market for 15 plus years, was a level 5 leader. And they had 2 attributes: humility and drive. And what they found about those people is the way they found humility is that they looked in the articles, they looked in the quotes, they looked all over these publications and newspapers. And what they found was they counted the number of the times the CEO said, I, me, me. It's all about me and my choice and what I did. What they found about level 5 leaders, they talked about we and our team and our people. The times when they used I was when something negative happened. I did a poor job foreseeing that. I could have done better there and I missed it. They took blame upon themselves. Those were the types of leaders that inspired their organizations to do better. They were humble, but they also had this crazy drive where they're hard workers and they were passionate about what they did. And that passion filtered out to others. Those are the types of things that we look for at Telarus. Now, if you're looking to find out where you stand and where you are in your leadership capabilities, one thing we also ask of our leaders is be self-aware. Understand where you are along this paradigm and self-assess. So we recommend these tests to our leaderships. One, this is a free test. If you go to queendom.com, it's called the Emotional IQ Test. Figure out where you stand and understand that there may be some areas to make up. That's okay. Also, we ask our leaders to take the DISC test. This is a personality assessment. Now, regardless of where you are on the DISC spectrum, and there are 4 quadrants, you could be a mix of multiple. It doesn't matter. Every one of them can be great leaders. Leaders do not come out of a specific quadrant. They come out of all of them. They just happen to be different styles of leaders. But find out who you are, and then you know what attributes you're working with. Next, we take the Myers-Briggs. Now, we do this in our hiring process as well to understand who people are and what their attributes are. But once again, the more you understand you, the more capable you're going to be as a leader, because you're going to know where your blind spots are. You're also going to know where your strengths are and what you can do as a leader to do these things that we talked about. To be humble, to have drive, to have character, and emotional intelligence. A book I would recommend for you to read is by General Stanley McChrystal called Leaders, Myth, and Reality. When I spoke at the beginning, I had a picture of Patton up there and the kind of the classic ranting general who's screaming orders and direction. If you look at Stanley McChrystal's book, who brought together all of the branches of the U.S. Army to coordinate their efforts in Iraq and actually shifted the tide of that war, you'll really have some eye-opening realizations when you read his book and find out that that's not the kind of leader he was. He was the kind of leader that drew people out to be their best. He was the kind of leader that didn't go in with all the answers, but sought to understand, sought to help people become greater, and got these different branches to work together. That is a great leader, and that's also a great book. My hope is that you spend time on this. Leadership doesn't come naturally. Leadership is a learned art over time. And if you will apply yourself toward it and find out what attributes are best for your company and constantly train those and work on them yourselves, you will be a great leader. And you may be already, but we can all be better. This is something I work on. This is something we work on as an organization. And I promise you, the rewards and the returns for that investment are huge. If you want to talk to us more about leadership, give me a call, give one of our teammates a call, and we'd love to chat with you about our experience and hear about yours.